Paul Thomas Anderson is one of the best filmmakers working today who's always in absolute control of his craft, and in this video I'm going to be talking about his 2007 masterpiece There Will Be Blood. And the film's title delivers on its promise. There indeed was blood. One of the film's themes is about capitalism and religion, and that is shown in the film's poster itself with as a cross that's a part of the design of the drilling machine. In terms of plot, this movie is about our protagonist Daniel Plainview, who's an oilman, and his journey on expanding his business. In the opening scene of the film, we see Daniel mining underground and he injures his leg. This is one of the many dangers to come in Daniel's future. His obsession with drilling oil affects him and his life in countless negative ways. When drilling, one of the workers brutally dies due to the equipment falling on him, and Daniel adopts his son. We consider this a kind act, and it made me feel empathy for Daniel, but that's what the film wanted me to think. Daniel has a clear want in this film to expand his oil business, and it's this very want that fuels the plot and helps progress it. And at first, to me at least, he seems like a nice guy. There's certainly an element of mystery to him that makes him interesting, but he's loving towards his son and is respectfully negotiable, and he follows a negative change arc where the character continues to act on his flawed beliefs and ends up in a worse place than he was in the beginning of the story. Daniel knows what he wants and is extremely determined to get it. He uses his negotiation skills to buy up a large piece of land upon finding there's lots of oil to be drilled within it. In the scene where he's trying to negotiate buying the land for a great portion of the scene, it's a wide shot where we can see everyone in the room. It sets the stage and it's a perfect way to begin the scene. Daniel presents the question and the shot composition remains the same. But then Eli, played by Paul Dano, begins to speak, challenging Daniel, but Daniel dismisses him. As Eli tries harder to be taken seriously, a cut happens. Not too dissimilar from the previous shot, but we can mostly still see everyone in the shot. But we know that Daniel is beginning to take him a bit more seriously, but not completely. Now Daniel has Eli's full attention. Their conversation is a series of close-up shots. Daniel and Eli are the two contenders, and it's intense because Eli wants Daniel to pay $10,000 for his land, and Daniel reinforces. There's a clear want and a struggle to achieve it in this one scene, and the filmmaking is so well executed that we can figure out what is happening just through the movement of the actors and the shot compositions. The entire film is filled with moments like this. Another example would be the scene where Eli first meets Daniel, which is really well analyzed by Cinema Beyond Entertainment. Every shot flows really well, where the editing is seamless yet doesn't lose momentum of the scene. Instead, it only accentuates the feeling that you're supposed to feel. Most of the scenes drag on and rarely have any cuts. This isn't a gimmick, but the lesser number of cuts gives a sense of importance to the scene. The lingering nature of the shot draws our attention to it, and the more time we have, the more time we can pay attention to the framing of the shot, how well it's composed, and it gives the time to let us feel the emotion of the scene. The average runtime of a shot is 13.3 seconds long, and it allows us to partially enter the character's headspace. When the drilling is on fire, it catastrophically results in Daniel's son, H-View, becoming deaf. Daniel rushes him to safety and has to make a choice, to be with his son or to assist the burning machine. A character's choices under pressure define their true nature, and Daniel chooses the machine. As the drilling machine burns in front of him, the shot lingers on his face. We wonder whether he's upset over the machine's demise, whether he's happy to have found oil, or whether he's worried for his son who's still waiting for his father. Later on in the film, Daniel's son's deafness becomes too much of a burden for him, and Daniel abandons him. And I love how the scene is shot. We see Daniel and H-View inside a train. Daniel tells his son that he will be right back, and as he walks out, tears begin to stream down his face. That's when I realized what he was doing. Just through the use of slow burn terror, the scene unwraps itself slowly, taking its time, and we know that this is a hard choice for Daniel as we clearly see him controlling his tears. Later on in the film, when Daniel reunites with his son, the choice of framing is interesting. This is supposed to be a moment of reconnection, but it's composed in an extreme wide shot where we barely see the father and son reunite. This shot is in stark contrast to what's happening on screen, but it's also telling us indirectly that this is all an act. Daniel is putting up a show for the others to show that he cares for his son, but the camera is like his own participant who knows the truth and is trying to tell that to us. As the film progresses, Daniel's greed for more only corrodes him. He becomes more bitter and ruthless. The business becomes a competition for him. On the outside, he may seem like a well-spoken, well-mannered and respectful man, but his power-hungry nature begins to slowly peel off his outer shell to show a monster who's willing to do anything to achieve success. This corrosion is also shown to us visually through Daniel Day-Lewis's outstanding performance. This is easily a top contender for the best acting performance in film. Daniel portrays his character's corruption through his facial expressions and body language remarkably. Every step of his descent into madness is performed with great level of skill and artistry as Daniel's body begins to contort in odd ways, as if his greed has started to affect him physically. The framing of the shots works in coordination with the performance to always make it seem like Daniel is the one in control. He's the one who commands the scene, only making him more terrifying than he already was. Day-Lewis's performance presents the character in a nuanced manner. Many times he made me feel empathy for Daniel Plainview. He was a victim of circumstance and a victim of his environment. But his performance also made me scared of Daniel, making me anticipate his next move, yet still managing to surprise me, where his character takes actions I never thought he would take. It's a great performance because not only did I completely believe in his character, but he used his facial expressions and body language to also subvert my expectations, only making the experience more enthralling. One of the major themes of the film is about religion and capitalism, and the two characters that represent these themes are Eli and Daniel, respectively. Eli is a man of faith and has his own church, whereas Daniel is a man who constantly works to expand his business. They're each other's opposing force and work to challenge each other. Eli despises the fact that Daniel has dried up his land drilling for oil, and Daniel finds Eli's methods of scaring away ghosts within people to be ridiculous. Later on, Daniel seeks forgiveness for abandoning his son, and it takes place in one of the best scenes in cinematic history. Daniel lets out his inner regret of abandoning his child, and it's a great scene because we see an actor performing a private moment, and we are there with him in that moment, absorbing everything on screen. Eli believes in religion, whereas business is Daniel's religion. The blood in the title isn't just actual blood, it's the oil itself. In the climax of the film, we see Daniel having accomplished all of his goals, but it came with a price. He is all alone. He has achieved success, but at the cost of his relationships. His ruthlessness cost him his humanity, the ugly truth of the idealized American dream. When Daniel's son, now all grown up, wishes to go to Mexico with his wife, Daniel now is even more bitter with him than he ever was, and this breaks his son. Since his son is deaf, he has a translator with him, and we see how the translator acts as a vessel for father and son to converse. But when the talk gets personal, it's a series of intense close-ups. Now we know that the matter is serious, and there are no shots of the translator. He's still in the scene, but we can simply assume that his son can still hear his father's crippling words, as he reveals to him that he was an orphan and was adopted by Daniel just so that he could buy land to run his business. But Daniel's transformation is incomplete. When a helpless Eli approaches Daniel for assistance, Daniel overpowers him. A scene parallel to the famous scene at the church takes place, but the roles are reversed. Daniel forces Eli to lie repeatedly about his faith and humiliate him by attacking his personal weakness, and in the end, kills him brutally. What will now happen to Daniel Plainview is unknown. Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood is a masterpiece that talks about unchecked greed and its long-lasting consequences, and the brilliance of its script is only elevated through the meticulously crafted filmmaking and groundbreaking performances. Easily one of my favorite films ever made that I continue to learn from. Thank you for watching.